A gentleman had an argument with this young man, Henderson, in an alley. They run into the house. Henderson runs into his home. This guy runs in behind him through the back door. He proceeds to shoot the young lady. He then stands over Henderson and he proceeds to shoot Henderson. The grandmother then runs out of the bedroom, sees her grandson being shot, and dives in his way as she takes the bullet for her grandson. That's how the grandmother got shot.
A person of interest is in custody in connection with a shooting rampage that left 2 women dead and a 3rd victim badly injured. The crime scene, Crenshaw and 116th Street in Inglewood.
Juliette, you know, I've been wanting to speak with you about this recent case that you were involved in, the Justice Marquis Scott case. There's some things that took place that are just baffling to me. And, maybe you can.
You know, it's an interesting case to look at, because on the one hand, you have the appearance of a young black man being taken from the streets and set up for capital murder. And not only do you have the appearance of that, you have the factual evidence to support that. This young man on October 8th was in a certain location. This young man, when he was arrested on October 9th, informed Inglewood police officers the location where he was at. They chose not to go and look for these surveillance videos.
Investigators are not looking for anyone else but Scott as a potential suspect. Anyone with information is asked to call 888-41-CRIME. A neighbor says that the gunman was Nguyen's former boyfriend, that he made a threat before opening fire.
He told my son he'll kill his whole family.
Family members say that no matter who the gunman is, they have some words for him.
I don't know what you realize you think you've done, but you got to pay the consequences, and it will be paid dearly and severely.
My team happened to be hired the same day he was arrested. We went on a holiday 3 hours before these videos were going to be erased, and we found 3 surveillance video everywhere my client said he was. Not only that, there's a 4th surveillance video. His mother has a home surveillance system. That surveillance system shows the time that he exited his home on the day these murders were committed. The other videos give me a video timeline up through the murders and after the murders. I can place my client.
Standard procedure to check alibis?
You would think that's 101. Something happened here. Something happened here way old school. This was real old school. So we had to handle it from the defense perspective in that capacity, and with that knowledge, knowing this is old school. We got to get the media involved. Had we not had that video, or had we not had the due diligence to go out and go into the community and to go into the location in which my client said he was, where would we be today? You know, it's old school. I got to tell somebody. We got to let someone up in the higher authority know what's kind of going on, because who's watching who? And the police, think about this. This young 19-year-old kid, college student, was a football player. You know, he was up against the powers that be to the most significant level. The district attorney's office, the Inglewood Police Department, the Los Angeles Police Department. After the grandmother gets shot, the suspect then runs out of the front door. The mother of the young man who was shot then comes out of her room, and she sees the back of the head of the individual that is running outside of the house. The back of the head. And even in her 6-pack where she makes the identification, they ask her, do you see anyone in this 6-pack? And the 6-pack is where you have 6 photographs of individuals, and you're to select the individual that you think committed this crime. When asked the question, do you see the individual who committed this crime? She had to respond no. Why? Because she didn't see the face. But what she said was that I saw the back of the head, and based upon the shape of his head, my client, and his shoulders, that's him. That's the identification, how the identification was in this case. And then there was a theory that an ex-boyfriend committed this crime. And my client was an ex-boyfriend of the young lady.
We do have such great sympathy. And my client also, you know, he has a lot of grief that he's going through right now that he has not been able to share.
Attorney Juliette Robinson said it was several pieces of security video her team recovered showing Scott at other locations during the same time frame the crimes occurred that served as evidence for the district.
But you know, it was that kind of thing where, you know, he was a good kid.
Yeah.
And so you bring the good kids home to meet your parents. And so when the police go to her parents and they ask, well, who's the ex-boyfriend? All they know is my client. So it's somewhat, this was a very interesting set of facts here. It's a very interesting set of facts. But the issue is that, you know, you got to take the facts, think for yourself, look at the facts, put the facts together. They only will lead you to one conclusion. And I'm not here to tell you what that conclusion is, but the bottom line, my client was not guilty, and they could not prove my client committed this crime.
Scott was free tonight here in Inglewood, and his attorney tells us that she didn't want him speaking out until a press conference tomorrow morning.
19-year-old Justin Marquis Scott walked free tonight, reuniting with his mother and legal team outside the Inglewood courthouse. The DA's office dropped the case after he'd been charged with murdering ex-girlfriend 18-year-old Asian Nguyen, shooting her new boyfriend Datwan Henderson, and also murdering his grandmother, 64-year-old Dora Dawson, earlier this month.
I knew he was innocent, but the way that they came at us, came at me, came at my son, it was unjust. The world that we live in, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty.
Incredible that this young man is just going about his business, and all of a sudden he's just snatched up, and these charges are leveled against him. I mean, and what's even more incredible is that you were able to obtain the evidence to acquit him. There's so many lessons from this case.
You know what, there really are, Eric. I tell my clients sometimes in the privacy, when we're just talking amongst ourselves, I told my client, this is not a system that has a whole lot to do with truth, justice, and fairness. This system is about what you can prove and what you can't. When you really look at it, it's about what you can prove and what you can't. And that's really kind of unfortunate, because where would we be today had we not had the evidence? Had we not had the actual evidence where you can see for yourself that my client is in other locations at the very same time these murders occurred, where would we be now? And the grief of this family, the grief of this mother, the grief of this young man. My client, all he could do was cry. I couldn't. All he could do was cry and tell me to go to the smoke shop. Everywhere he told us he was, we went and we found a videotape. It was really kind of scary. It was the most amazing thing. And I immediately, you know, because I felt this was old school, you know, I immediately, once I got a hold of the tapes, got them to my security team. We immediately made copies. We immediately placed them in certain places, so if these tapes miraculously vanished or disappeared, or homes were raided or offices were raided, that we had to think like this. We had to think like you think back in the day. And we shouldn't have to think like that. We shouldn't think like that. The job that should have been done was to go and check out the alibi, get the tapes, confirm the alibi, deny the alibi, and there that was. This could have been resolved early on, as opposed to my client spending time in custody. And I had to put my client in protective custody. And I had to put him in protective custody for his own safety, because he's not a gangster. He doesn't know how to fight. And I couldn't take the chance on some of these young kids out here not really knowing the story just yet, and then coming after him in some type of retaliation when they didn't know the story. Yeah. So I had to keep him safe.
The victim's family said Henderson, who is still hospitalized, had ID'd Scott as his shooter.
A neighbor says that the gunman was Nguyen's former boyfriend, that he made a threat before opening fire.
He told my son he'll kill his whole family over this lady right here.
I don't know what you realize you think you done, but you got to pay the consequences, and it will be paid dearly and severely.
Our detectives literally worked all night to develop some leads on where he might be, and he was in fact arrested this afternoon.
I'm like a volcano. I'm boiling over.
They're now fearful for their safety.
It's scary, you know. For them to let somebody out, it's mind-boggling.
And the whole purpose in me putting him out there on that third for his interview, that wasn't for the media to talk to him. That was my presentation of my young man to the streets.
Yeah.
That was my presentation of this young man to the streets. Like, look, people on the streets, look, listen to him. Listen to him. You can look at this kid. And if you from the streets, you can tell this kid did not run up into that kid's home and shoot him.
Crystal she was my ex-girlfriend with my best friend. We talked every day. And I still can't believe she's gone. I didn't even get to go to pay my condolences to the funeral. I didn't go get to grieve with her family. I didn't get to show nobody how much I really cared about her. And everybody think everybody think I did it. Like, I spent so many days in the cell grieving by myself with nobody around me to put a hand on my shoulder and say it's gonna be all right. I was right there by myself. I didn't get to go see her in the casket or nothing. Like, imagine like you've been with somebody for a long time or whatever, and then you hear about this, and then you can't even go support her or nothing. I didn't get to support her or nothing at all. No one could ever imagine how I felt when I was in there, and how I still feel now. It's not something I'll get over in a couple years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. This is always gonna be a wound in my heart. I lost somebody dearly that I love. And on top of that, they try to blame me for saying I did it, when I know for a fact I know I didn't. And having not been in the smoke shop, where would I be today? I'll be in prison facing death penalty as a 19-year-old kid. I play football all my life. I go to college. I'm a college student. I have big dreams. And this is all like a big nightmare. And I hope to switch it all around, make something positive out of it or something. But like I said before, no one will ever know how I really feel.
Yeah, I think that was the most disturbing part of this case, I think, was the fact that they filed it as capital murder charges and they were going to seek the death penalty. When you seeking to kill human life, cross the T's, dot the I's, check the alibis, go back and cross the T's some more. Go back. You can't just take, we have to have value in human life, and all life is valuable. All life is valuable. I tell you about, what, 20 years ago, I used to fight. I was trained by grassroots attorneys to a certain extent. I came from the corporate world and then came to the criminal arena when 3 strikes came in. I was trained by grassroots attorneys. And sometimes we used to just get in your face. You're so frustrated with what you see. You're so frustrated at the injustice, and it just can't be this way. And so, Miss Claire, I then brought who's my godmother. She's also my spiritual consultant. And she taught me finesse. She taught me how to calmly and quietly and gently say the same things that I was saying with as much force as I was before. And so I'm so grateful for her. But that's why I have to keep her when we handle these high profile cases, or when we handle cases where my client's looking at life, or in this case when my client is looking at death, I have to have a spiritual constant awakening in my ear just to keep things balanced, because it's a closed system.
What would you say you're left with, out of this case? What were you, in your own being, what are you left with?
Yeah, I'm really left with leaving my imprint in the criminal justice system in a huge way. Whether or not it's talked about or not. Bottom line, they filed death penalty cases against my client, and we exonerated him within 30 days.
And what of yourself does that fulfill? That you leave an imprint, a legacy that's there for those who come after you to serve and empower them. What for yourself do you take with you that you go forth with from that. You go forth with something. Like, I've done this case, I did it well. I've left a legacy, I've left a track. This is a teaching tool, you know. But for myself personally, I do this for myself. What that leaves me with is what?
A sustained sense of joy and freedom. Yeah. I mean, I really, this is the highest case of the land you can do is death penalty. Yeah. And to leave the imprint at this level that it has been left, you know, it's humbling. It's humbling. I'm just so grateful that I was the chosen one to do this. And I just hope that I served it properly. And so I hope that this case could be, I'd like to take this case and let it heal. Let it be used as a healing in this system a little bit. The light is shown on the ugliness. And we call it the belly of it. And most people are amazed that the belly of the system is still on top of the system, is still present. And I don't think this was normal. I don't think this was every day, not in my detectives that I deal with, but it happened in this case. And how do we stop that? How do we assure that that doesn't happen again? Who's watching those that are watching us? Who's doing the checks and balances on that? Where do we go when we get beyond the police department? Who do we go to? And Ms. Fair, what do you think about attorneys coming to me and telling me that I'm going to have repercussions from the system as a result of this? What are your thoughts on that?
That's an interesting thing because if a person is innocent and you prove their innocence and there's repercussions from really exonerating someone who was never guilty in the first place, then what really is the underlying ambition, you know, of the system? You know, it makes me wonder about that. There has to be an underlying ambition to disrespect. It's really an ultimate disrespect, you know, of our fundamental right to liberty, which is freedom, you know, and the pursuit of happiness and justice. So there's no interest in what we're calling justice, and yet we have what we call a justice system. So the whole thing is, you know, it's like, oh, it's just a facade. It's just a facade. You know, they're looking to incarcerate as many people as they can. And you know, like now we have private corporations who use the prison for the labor force and pay them like sweatshop laborers. And so it makes me think that it's looking for a field rate for the prison. But at the same time, it's something that's a lack of humanity.
Exactly where my client said he was. Everywhere we went, we found a surveillance video. On October 14th, after we seized these videos by way of subpoena, 2 of them by way of subpoena, we were able to copy the Smoke for Less video on the 14th. That was a holiday. We were informed by the establishment at the Smoke for Less shop that these videos were scheduled to be erased and taped over at 4 o'clock. The next business day, my client was arraigned on October 11th. The next business day was October the 15th. On October the 15th, I hand-carried a detailed letter into the district attorney's office and the Inglewood district attorney's office, informing them of what I've just told you. On the 16th of October, I then held a press conference saying all of this. Everything was shut down, and the district attorney did need time to make sure these videos had not, in fact, been tampered with. Once it took them, as long as it took them, and once they found out that these videos had not been tampered with, the smoke shop video, which is the key video, had not been tampered with, they indicated that they were unable to proceed. They didn't feel that they had enough evidence to proceed against my client, and they therefore dismissed this case. And my client was released.
So it irritates me when I hear the district attorney say we're dropping the charges because we don't have enough evidence. They don't have any evidence. We had the evidence. We had 3 videotapes of this young man in a whole different city. And I want to commend his attorney, Juliette Robinson, and the family and the community for standing up for him.
I wonder about the impact, you know, the impact mentally that this case has on the kid himself and also his reputation. You know, even though he's been acquitted, you know, there's still some people.
Correct. And I like this to be a lemon out of taking lemons and making lemonade type scenario. I like, you know, I like there to be some type of purpose so this was not done in vain for this young man. There was some lesson that he was to get in this. And I hope, you know, he was starting to talk back to his mom a little bit and do that teenage stuff with his mother. Something that he was supposed to get. So I hope that he values life at this point. And I hope whatever the issues were in that they're taken care of. I hope that the police department can now really look at that and say, let's not judge all black men based upon what our old perceptions of black people are in certain cities. Let's judge these young men on their merits. Let's go out and let's check the alibis. Let's check that. Let's let district attorneys not, it can't just be all about winning. Yeah. It's got to be, you got to bring justice back into the justice system. You got to bring some light back into this darkness of this system. We can't just round them up anymore. That's not what we're doing. And that's where the ancestors were very present with me in this case. And they stood up and said a resounding no. Absolutely. And I was divinely led in this case on the steps that we took. My security and we were up at 2, because I had to move security in, yes. We were up at 2 or 3 in the morning discussing the day's strategy with respect to this case. How we were, one, going to keep this team safe, how we, one, were going to deal with this evidence, and how we were going to get my kid out of custody because he didn't commit this crime and he had no right to be there. None.